Hi friends. Today we embark on another captivating journey into the shadowy world of true crime stories. Get ready to investigate, discover, and reveal the secrets of a dark and dramatic case. Are you prepared to dive into this thrilling investigation? Let's begin now. In a peaceful neighborhood in Mansfield, Texas, Rick and Suzanna Wamsley lived the life many people dream of: a spacious house, two adorable children, and stable, high-paying jobs. However, behind that perfect appearance lie dark secrets. One night, when the police receive a silent emergency call from their house, everything begins to come out, unfolding a dramatic and unexpected story. On the night of December 11th, 2003, at 11:41 p.m., the 911 dispatch center in Mansfield received a strange call from the Wamsley family's home. The other end of the line was completely silent. There was no sound, but the dispatcher's intuition was that there might be danger. Immediately, a patrol was sent to their house. When arriving, police discovered some unusual signs. Both garages were open and the side door was unlocked. This makes them wary. When stepping inside, the cold and gloomy atmosphere enveloped the house. They entered the kitchen and saw a landline phone had been taken off its hook and placed on the kitchen table, as if someone had tried to call in an emergency. Entering the living room, the police encountered a horrifying scene. Suzanna Wamsley, 45, was lying on the couch, her body freezing. Her face was strangely peaceful, but the coldness of her body and the surrounding air signaled that she had been dead for some time. Not stopping there, when they continued to check the house, in the foyer near the front door, they discovered Rick Wamsley, 46 years old, the homeowner, lying in a pool of blood. He was shot to death, and the helplessness of his body showed that no one could save his life in time. The whole house was in silence and horror. Immediately, the house was sealed off, and the official investigation began. Rick and Suzanna's bodies were transported to the forensic laboratory for autopsies. The results showed that Suzanna died from a wound from a bullet, but what was more horrifying was that she was also stabbed 7 times, perhaps after she passed away. The injuries on her body indicated that she may have been attacked while falling asleep on the couch while watching TV. Detectives also discovered several key clues at the scene, including fingerprints on the carpet, a bullet, 2 pieces of blue plastic hairpin, and another piece of plastic on the floor nearby. Rick also suffered the same fate as his wife, but his death seemed more painful. He was shot in the head and lay dead on the floor while blood flowed around him. Everything in the house seemed to freeze in that horrifying moment when both husband and wife had their lives taken away at the same time. The police investigation begins to delve deeper into Rick and Suzanna's lives, gradually revealing this family's hidden secrets. They are not just a happy and successful couple as everyone thinks. Their relationship began during their high school years in Oklahoma in the 1970s, when they were both classmates. Although they were not teenage sweethearts, their friendship gradually developed into love as Rick attended Oklahoma State University and Suzanna studied at a Christian college. After graduating, Rick and Suzanna decided to get married, have children, and grow old together. They married in 1978 and welcomed their first daughter, Sarah, that same year. 6 years later, their son Andrew was born, completing their happy little family. Rick worked hard and was successful in the oil and gas industry, a job that moved the family several times before they settled in Fort Worth, Texas, where Rick opened his own accounting office in his home and became an accountant, certified auditor. The Wamsley family's life seems very stable and full. Sarah, in 2003, was 25 years old, became a mother and lived on her own in an apartment. Meanwhile, 19-year-old Andrew had just graduated from high school and started college, while also working part-time at a mini golf course to earn extra income. In July 2003, Rick and Suzanna celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary, a memorable milestone in their lives. The celebration took place happily with the attendance of friends and family. By December of the same year, the couple had carefully prepared for a special Christmas season, with many family events expected to take place. Suzanna spent hours decorating the house, choosing each gift and placing them under the large Christmas tree in the living room. The house is filled with a festive atmosphere, with decorative wreaths, Christmas statues in the yard, and twinkling lights everywhere. All the preparations became meaningless when tragedy struck. The Wamsley family's cozy home has now become the scene of a gruesome murder. The investigation continues with many complicated details, and the biggest question is who committed this crime and why. These questions haunt not only the police but also the once peaceful community of Mansfield. The attack on Rick Wamsley began in the master bedroom, where he and his wife, Suzanna, were sleeping. There was no sign of blood in the room, suggesting Rick may have woken up when he heard the gunshots and ran out, or fought off the intruder right there. Rick, a resilient man, does not give up easily. He fought back fiercely, as evidenced by a tuft of hair being yanked in his left hand, which became important evidence in the investigation. In the hallway, Rick is brutally attacked. Detectives counted about 11 knife wounds on his back, a testament to the brutality and rage of the attacker. The investigation team did not miss any detail. They carefully examined every room, every carpet, and every piece of furniture in the Wamsley family's spacious home. Some other evidence, such as hair left in Rick's hand and a broken piece of hairpin on the living room floor, was sent to the lab for DNA analysis. Initially, investigators suspected that the Wamsley family may have been robbed. They theorized that Rick may have startled the thieves, forcing them to use force. However, this theory was disproved when nearly $115,000 in cash was found in the bedroom, still intact on the bedside table. This shows that the purpose of the attack was not robbery. No valuables were missing, and there were no signs of forced entry. Neighbors and friends were shocked, unable to believe that someone could commit such a crime against Rick and Suzanna. They described the couple as kind people, always willing to help others. Rick and Suzanna Wamsley live a seemingly ideal life. Rick is a successful accountant who enjoys gardening and taking his son to baseball games. Suzanna is a dedicated housewife who takes care of her children and spends time with her family. The Wamsley family's life is not as smooth as it seems. Tensions are always present, especially between the two children, Sarah and Andrew. Sarah was kicked out of her house for inappropriate behavior, got pregnant at age 19, and had an unhealthy relationship with Todd Cleveland. She often argued with her younger brother, and they were never really close. According to Sarah's ex-boyfriend, the Wamsley family is always suspicious of outsiders, even friends, because they think they just want to take advantage. This further increases tension in relationships between family members, creating a difficult and complicated environment. Rick and Suzanna Wamsley's relationship is not as smooth as it seems. Although they tried to maintain a happy exterior, their marriage encountered many problems. The family had an agreement to support the children financially if they went to college, but Sarah was unsuccessful, while Andrew convinced his parents that he would comply. As incentive, they gave Andrew a new white Mustang, but Andrew dropped out without finishing. When Rick and Suzanna discovered this, they cut off all financial support but did not kick Andrew out of the house. Family tensions increase, and 19-year-old Andrew spends time at a restaurant where he meets Chelsea Richardson, a 19-year-old girl. On the morning when Sarah received news of her parents' death, their bodies were discovered, but Andrew was not present. Police asked the media to search for Andrew's Mustang. When the car appeared in front of the house, Andrew and his girlfriend Chelsea got out, explaining that they had been at Chelsea's house for a few days and knew nothing about the tragedy until they saw the news. They were asked for questioning at the police station. During the interrogation, which lasted about 45 minutes, Andrew claimed that he had lived at Chelsea's house. Although there were some scratches on his hands, there was no doubt in his testimony. After questioning, Andrew was allowed to leave but had to sign permission to search the vehicle. Andrew had also told his sister Sarah that forensic experts were able to find his mother's blood on the car, explaining that his mother had recently cut her hand. Chelsea was also questioned, and her story matched Andrew's completely. The two often spend time at the 24-hour cafe playing Master Duel, a game that simulates battles between monsters. Their relationship became serious, although Andrew's parents were not happy with this choice. The Richardson family lives on the outskirts of Fort Worth, in an area known as the Blue Collar District, which is somewhat of a contrast to the million-dollar homes that line the streets of Mansfield. Chelsea lost her beloved father to a heart attack several years ago, and her mother often had to work 3 jobs at once to make ends meet. However, the Richardson family was still considered generous people, and Chelsea was an outgoing girl who was quite popular at school. Her cheerful nature even earned her the nickname Bubble. Suzanna Toledano, Chelsea's best friend, once enjoyed that generosity when she had an argument with her mother and was invited by Chelsea to stay home for a while. On the night Rick and Suzanna Wamsley were murdered, all 3 teenagers, Andrew, Chelsea, and Suzanna, were together at the home of Jeremy Lavender, Chelsea's ex-boyfriend. Jeremy confirmed that they stayed at his house all night and didn't go anywhere, so all 3 had alibis. Sarah Wamsley told police that Todd Cleveland, her daughter's father, may have been involved in her parents' deaths. Recently, Sarah had a heated argument with Todd over custody and threatened to report him to Child Protective Services. After this threat, a suspicious incident happened in early November. While driving, Rick's Jeep suddenly experienced a strong jolt, and after inspection, they discovered a bullet hole in the rear car. Sarah's mother, Suzanna, called Andrew instead of calling the police immediately after the incident, which made Sarah feel suspicious. Both sisters, Sarah and Andrew, inherited a $1 million insurance policy from their father, along with large assets from the family home. However, after investigation, police ruled Todd Cleveland out as a suspect, despite financial connections and family tensions. Despite this, both Sarah and Andrew are still on the radar of investigators. Fingerprint and DNA tests did not reveal any connection to the crime scene. There is no evidence that either was involved in the deaths of Rick and Suzanna Wamsley. Despite this, Sarah still believes that Andrew is responsible and has filed a petition to prevent Andrew from inheriting any of the family assets. She feared that her younger brother might also want to get rid of her. During a forensic examination of Andrew's vehicle, investigators discovered bloodstains on the back seat and headrest. However, the Mustang had been thoroughly washed, making it impossible for experts to collect a viable DNA sample, and law enforcement was unable to determine whose blood was left in the car. Several months after the deaths of Rick and Suzanna Wamsley, the investigation reached a dead end. Realizing the need for more information, the police department decided to convene a grand jury and began sending subpoenas to people connected to the deceased couple. One of the people summoned was Jeremy Lavender, Chelsea's ex-boyfriend. Jeremy swore under oath and confirmed that Andrew and his friends were with him throughout the night, providing an alibi for the group. Suzanna Toledano, Chelsea's best friend, also testified similarly and voluntarily provided a DNA sample to compare with evidence obtained from the crime scene. What no one expected was that this step would become a turning point in the investigation. Suzanna Toledano, who moved to Texas from Illinois several years ago, did not fit in well with his new classmates at school. She was not a diligent or particularly intelligent student, and often skipped school and argued with her mother. Chelsea Richardson became Suzanna's lifeline, and both girls became so close that Chelsea wrote a note in the school yearbook expressing their strong friendship and composed a poem titled "Friendship Forever." When investigators compared Suzanna Toledano's DNA with DNA samples from a strand of hair in Rick's hand and a broken hairpin at the crime scene, they found a match. This led to Suzanna being arrested on suspicion of involvement in the murder of the Wamsley couple and possibly facing the death penalty. Suzanna testified that on the night of the incident, she was walking with Hilario Cardenas, a 25-year-old man. Hilario had the gun and needed money, and allegedly broke into Wamsley's house while Suzanna stood outside. She heard gunshots and rushed to the scene, where Rick begged her to stop the attack, but she was unable to intervene. Hilario, according to Suzanna's testimony, was the night shift manager at a restaurant that Andrew's group of friends often frequented. He learned about the wealthy Wamsley family after befriending Andrew. When questioned, Hilario denied involvement in the attack, but admitted to purchasing the gun at Andrew's request for target practice. The connection between these characters has raised many questions about the motives and roles of each person in this terrible murder. Hilario's claims began to be confirmed when investigators approached the owner of the property where the teens were believed to have practiced shooting. The property owner, a friend of Chelsea's mother, confirmed that several months before the tragedy, Andrew, Chelsea, and Suzanna went to her 3-acre property to practice shooting. She had never heard of or seen Hilario Cardenas. Hilario later passed a lie detector test, further adding credibility to his story. Forensic experts collected bullets from the small pond where the group of teenagers had practiced, concluding that Hilario was telling the truth. These 3 teenagers had actually been practicing their shooting skills for several months before the murder, laying the groundwork for an elaborate and brutal plot. The bullets fired into the home of Rick and Suzanna Wamsley became the trail of a terrible plot. However, bullets from the bottom of the pond also matched the wound, leading to the failure of Suzanna's first version when she accused Hilario of attacking the couple. But another opportunity came to Suzanna, allowing her to directly accuse her best friend with a much more complicated story. 3 teenagers, Suzanna, Andrew, and Chelsea, planned a crime to inherit more than $1 million after the deaths of Rick and Susan. They convinced the cafe manager to buy them a gun and practice target shooting. Their first plan was to shoot into the gas tank of Rick's Jeep, but when this plan failed, they decided to break into Wamsley's house in the middle of the night. Chelsea put pressure on Suzanna to carry out the plan. They helped Suzanna sneak into Andrew's parents' house, hide her in the closet, and give her the gun. In the early morning of December 11, 2003, Suzanna entered the house with a gun, while Andrew and Chelsea were armed with knives. Suzanna found Suzanna on the sofa and shot her. Andrew then dragged Suzanna into the master bedroom, where Suzanna shot Rick, but the bullet missed. When Rick rushes in to protect his family, a fight ensues. Andrew took the weapon from Suzanna and stabbed her in the arm, forcing her to go check on Susan's condition. This incident led to a series of serious and complicated developments, raising many questions about the motives and connections between the teenagers. Meanwhile, Andrew and Chelsea decide Rick's fate before leaving the house. Suzanna saw Rick kneeling and asked her son's girlfriend why, to which Chelsea replied that she was pregnant. Rick tries to convince them that he can help, but a gunshot rings out. Suzanna doesn't know who pulled the trigger, and soon Rick is injured, leaving Suzanna worried about possibly testifying against her friends. Suzanna's testimony, although unreliable due to having lied many times before, became key evidence in the case against Chelsea and Andrew. On July 1, 2004, nearly 7 months after the crime, authorities charged Andrew and Chelsea. Witnesses in jail testified that Chelsea had bragged about her involvement in the death of her boyfriend's parents, and they tried to create an alibi for her. Chelsea's initial alibi, provided by Jeremy, was dismissed when he admitted he was not with the teenagers that night. Chelsea, portrayed as a mastermind, convinced Andrew and Suzanna to participate in the plan. A text message Chelsea wrote to her friend during her arrest made it clear that she wanted Suzanna to blame Hilario. The jury believed Suzanna's testimony. In less than 4 hours, they concluded that Chelsea, 21, was guilty and sentenced her to death by lethal injection. Meanwhile, Andrew was protected from the death penalty thanks to his lawyer arguing that he suffered from a personality disorder that left him unable to control his violent behavior. However, the jury did not believe his excuse. Andrew Wamsley, 23, was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 2044. Hilario, the cafe manager, was also convicted of criminal conspiracy and sentenced to 50 years in prison. Chelsea, the apparent mastermind, spent more than 10 years on death row before her sentence was commuted to life in prison in 2012. This happened after Suzanna's mother, Susan, claimed that she could have prevented the murders if Chelsea had not been involved in the plot. Suzanna is currently in custody and will be eligible for parole in the spring of 2034. The Wamsley case is a tragedy not only because of the sudden passing of the two victims, but also because of the secrets hidden within the family. The betrayal from his own son made the story more heartbreaking than ever. It reminds us of fragile family relationships and how greed can lead to cruel decisions. The pain and loss in this case left a deep mark in everyone's minds, making us reflect on the value of love and loyalty. The story of the Wamsley case is not only a lesson in crime, but also a reminder that outward peace can hide dark secrets. Hopefully, through stories like this, we will appreciate relationships more and not let greed lead us down the wrong path. Please ensure to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell to stay updated on all the intriguing cases in the True Crime Stories series. Be the first to receive updates on dramatic and thrilling crime stories.